I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, and let's just say it has been a very busy few days at the United States Supreme Court, but we'll get into that in a second. We've got an awesome panel to discuss it. Attorney Mike Rataj, Detroit Free Press columnist ML Elrick, and of course, Deadline Detroit co-founder Allan Lengel. Oy, I don't even know where to begin, so let's go ahead and go alphabetically. The affirmative act case.
We might mention that Alexis Wiley. We were hoping that she joins us at some point.
Okay,
Nancy Derringer is off.
Okay, so Chief of Staff for Mayor Mike Duggan, Alexis Wiley, hopefully joining us, but veteran journalist Nancy Derringer will not be on this episode. Okay, the affirmative action case, the Supreme Court, unsurprisingly, seems to have now struck down a decades-old policy of an affirmative action in the twin cases involving Harvard University, a private university, as well as the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, a public university. A case brought by an Asian American plaintiff, actually. But now we find that while legacy admissions have been kept intact, race-based applications and admissions have now been declared unconstitutional. Thoughts on this one, gentlemen?
I didn't get a chance to read the actual ruling on that, but I was listening to MSNBC, and they were analyzing it. And it sounded like Roberts on the affirmative action thing was really such a Weasley kind of decision, basically saying, no, you can't use race, but if you happen to write a paper and you mention that you're a minority, then that's okay, but you still can't take that into account. Race can't be taken into account, but if you happen to know the person's black, I mean, it's such a Weasley little thing, and it's ridiculous, because the fact is we're trying to, in every way, in the workplace and in the schools, trying to get more diversity, and it's beneficial to everybody to be mixing with people of different cultures and races and all that kind of stuff. And it's not, I mean, the whole affirmative action thing is not that it's like we're only considering race or whatever. It's an element there. I mean, look, the bottom line is if you're at Yale Law School and you're the admissions officer or whatever, and you want to get more diversity there, and you have a black and a white student who are of equal talent, why would you not pick the black person to create some more diversity there? So I don't know. That's mine.
ML or Mike, your thoughts?
Go ahead, ML. I'll bring up I'll bat third.
Sure. Well, in terms of dynamic decisions, they've also just rejected Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, which may be handing Biden another election issue. If you want to get your student loans forgiven, you got to vote for me. And they've said that if you got a problem with gay people, and I guess with anybody else, you don't have to make their website or bake them a cake, which I don't care where you put your stuff. I'll make you a cake. What's the big deal? I don't understand these guys.
We'll address both of those, ML. I mean, on the affirmative action case, I was reading an op-ed in the New York Post today by Calvin Yang, a 21-year-old who was in fact the plaintiff, and he then describes why he helped strike down the affirmative action case. 21-year-old Chinese Canadian says I have a 3.9 GPA in high school, a 1550 SAT score, 2 varsity sports, his own political policy startup, and a spot on Canada's 30 under 30 when he applied. He said he didn't want to be typecast as just another Asian American candidate by not including the fact that apparently he's a pretty Johnny Awesome pianist as well. But it seemed to me, reading this op-ed, that he's had a real sense of self-entitlement to a slot at Harvard University, which, by the way, has an acceptance rate at best of 6%. He made it into the University of California, Berkeley, which is, of course, one of the highest-ranking universities in the country. In fact, the only American public university to make it into the top 20 worldwide university rankings this week. But what about this idea, then, that the plaintiffs in this case were, it seems, a group of Asian Americans as opposed to white Americans?
You know, I do think that one of the reasons you go to college is to have different experiences. And if you live in a place where everybody looks like you, you're not going to get a very different experience going to college. If anything, if I was this guy, I'd write somebody a letter saying, thanks for not making me spend the next 4 years of my life with a bunch of privileged dicks. But I don't think that's where he's coming from. So in general, I think we do want to do everything we can to incentivize institutions, particularly publicly funded institutions, to have a student body that looks like the rest of the country. But I also feel like if this guy's that great, don't go to Harvard, go to Yale, go someplace else. Stanford seems good. You mentioned Berkeley's great. From what I'm told, to my chagrin, the University of Michigan has a higher ranked engineering college than Princeton does. So you don't get into the Ivy, you got another place to go. You go to Wayne State, you can get Saeed Khan teaching you. So that seems like a bonus. And these guys who think that their life is going to be great if they only go to one particular place, if you think your life is only going to be great if you only get everything you want, let me just tell you something right now. Your life is going to suck because that's not how life works. Having said that, I do think we do need to do everything we can to encourage more diversity. And, you know, I guess I'm sorry this guy lost. He doesn't really sound like somebody I'd want to hang out with. Not because he's Asian, but because he sounds like a bit of a biatch.
Yeah. Well, I guess my takeaways are a couple things. First of all, Clarence Thomas is a freaking disgrace. I mean, the guy looks in the mirror every morning and says, I hate this myself because I'm black. I mean, and we all know that he got in the Holy Cross because they wanted more diversity. He got into Yale because they wanted more diversity. He basically was the only token conservative black when George W. Bush appointed him to fill
H.W.
Bush, thank you, to fill Thurgood Marshall's slot on the Supreme Court. I mean, what a joke. Can you imagine Clarence Thomas replacing someone like Thurgood Marshall, a legal giant, and Amy Coney Barrett replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg? I mean, and really what you need to do is you need to read Ketanji Jackson Brown's dissenting opinion, which basically is a roadmap to the systemic racism that's gone on in this country since the beginning of our republic. So, I mean, it's just a disgraceful decision. It flies in the face of the law. And it's just another example of a conservative court whittling away people's rights. So, yeah, I mean, it's a sad day for America, that's for sure.
I mean, in real terms, I wonder how many universities this is going to affect. I mean, I know that at Wayne State, we certainly don't have the kind of highly selective category for admission that a place like Harvard does. But I mean, we have a very diverse campus. I don't see that race-based applications, whether they are nullified or not, is going to change that one bit. It seems like what we're really talking about is just a few seats at a few privileged and elite universities. And as ML described, a fraternity of people who probably don't really reflect, represent, or want to be the kind of people you want to have over at your home.
Hey,
Yeah, I think the only thing Yang has been denied.
Saeed, I'm sorry. Could you? I think your earphones are echoing, making a lot of noise. I don't know if. All right. Why don't we
How's
try
that?
it? All right. Let's try that.
Okay. I can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
Let me go ahead and work on this.
All right. Here, let me see here. Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Mike, while we're working on.
My thought on this is the biggest thing that Yang has been denied is a chance to sit on the Supreme Court, because all these jobs go through Harvard or Yale. I mean, if any place needs to be diversified, it's those universities, because they seem to hold a stranglehold on being elected president, being on the Supreme Court. You know, I mean, enough of Harvard and Yale.
Yeah, no shit. Oh, I lost everybody.
Okay.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mike's earphones maybe. Shit, everybody's earphones are echoing now.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
I don't have earphones.
All right, you're doing good, Mike. I think ML, your earphones might. Although I'm echoing now. Shit. All right, let's keep going.
Technology, buddy.
Huh? Now we're all echoing. Let me see.
It just feels like we're on Olympus now.
Echo. Now pitching Pedro Bourbon.
Yes.
Saeed's the only guy echoing now.
Yes. Oh, fuck. We're so fucked here. Yeah. I don't know what the hell is going on here. Yeah. You know what? Maybe I'll
be that air quality.
Yeah. Maybe I'm.
Oh no, Lengel left us.
Yeah.
Well, there's no echo now. Oh, yes, there is.
This is like a game of Clue. Figuring out who it is. Do you think that this is a ploy of a certain group of conservatives looking for the right kind of plaintiffs and having the Asian Americans sort of being front and center, when this is actually part of a broader agenda to try to get rid of affirmative action?
All right, go ahead. Say, speak. Shit.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. What was the question, Saeed?
Yeah, the question was, I mean, I find it to be really interesting that the plaintiffs in this case, at least certainly visibly, are Asian Americans, almost as though they have been put on the front line of an agenda that probably has within it more of a conservative sort of lens through it. And after all, legacy admissions were preserved and protected going forward.
Well, it does seem when they tried to do it with Jennifer Gratz, who was white, and Ward Connerly, who was black, they didn't get very far. I mean, they had some success, but some consideration was left in place. But I think that had more to do with the makeup of the Supreme Court than anything else. I mean, there was more of to my mind, more of an enlightened Supreme Court than we have now, although I think the Inquisition was a little bit more enlightened than the Supreme Court we have now. So Torquemada, I think, and Alito both took a vacation together on a private island with Clarence Thomas. That's going to come out soon. But it is interesting. And one of the things that you've heard from some of these studies about diversity at the Ivies is that now Asians are getting an advantage over other people. So, I don't know how that all plays into it. But I think if you have someone who is in a minority challenging affirmative action, that allows a lot of conservatives to say, see, even those people don't like it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Well, there was another interesting case regarding religious accommodation. A Pennsylvania postal worker claimed that his religious freedom was being impinged when he was made to work on a Sunday, and that despite apparently being told that there really weren't any accommodations that could be made short of drawing people to his town from somewhere else in Pennsylvania. He was able to now successfully argue his case, and it looks like the Supreme Court has widely expanded the obligation to provide religious accommodation for many. Is there a bottom to this? I mean, what could then constitute possibly the kind of accommodations that need to be made? Here it seems as though the U.S. Postal Service literally had to go ahead and bring in people from elsewhere in the state or from the country in order to work on a Sunday.
I'm not familiar with that case.
Okay, well then we'll go on. See, this is what happens when all of you use UPS and Amazon Prime. Nobody uses the frickin' postal service anymore.
Well, are we getting to a point now where I don't have to deliver the mail to Wolverines because I'm a Spartan, and Wolverines I find highly offensive? I mean, is that where we're going? These accommodations, it kind of feels to me in a lot of ways like you should get over yourself.
Well, that's actually a different case, ML. That is a case that just came down, and this is the one that you alluded to before, where a woman said that she shouldn't be obliged to make a same-sex wedding website. Apparently, she's a web designer, because that is, I thought it was interesting. She argued that it was a violation of her free speech, not necessarily her religious rights. But I wonder then that if it comes down to refusal of service, can somebody say, well, wait a minute, you're not a Trinitarian Christian. I got no obligation to go ahead and provide you service. I again don't know where the bottom is on these cases, if it's taken in the name of free speech or in the name of freedom of religion. It seems like it pretty much is, at the very least, the religious majority in this country.
Well, there is no bottom. Yeah. Okay, this is the trend. You're going to just keep seeing this more and more and more all the time.
We have a video. We have a video, and this is from the Los Angeles School Board.
When you have 2 or 3 days of this kind of chaos, of people screaming at the top of their lungs outside a school that read a book with one sentence in it that said, yeah, guess what? Families can include 2 moms and 2 dads. By the way, at the little discussion at the school after that, as soon as the book was over, one of the little girls sitting at my knees said, I have 2 mommies. But a little boy on my other side said, I have 5 grandmas. I am very tired of having young people and adults in the LGBT community hear 3 days of yelling and screaming about this. What do you think that did to them? What do you think that did to every gay teacher, every gay custodian, every gay worker in this city, every gay kid? What do you think that did to them? It made them afraid. It made them afraid. How dare you make them afraid because you are?
Well,
pretty intense.
Pretty intense, pretty dramatic. Yeah, I mean, I think that this idea about America becoming balkanized by the idea that if there's anything that is an affront to what you have to say or what you believe, you can essentially go ahead and cancel them out. Now, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, the case that in the 1960s, which held that the Civil Rights Act was constitutional, was based on the refusal of restaurants in the South to serve African Americans. And the Supreme Court back then, I think it decided the case saying that that violates the Interstate Commerce Clause of Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. I mean, I'm just absolutely perplexed that the Supreme Court here went ahead and decided this case without that in consideration. And I guess it makes me also wonder then how safe the Civil Rights Act is.
Well, it's not safe. It's absolutely not safe. Not with court. No, I mean, I'm not going. Sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
Man, somebody's been tripping acid.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Saeed?
I can, but with quite a bit of echo.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely coming from him. Although I'm echoing as well.
No, I don't hear you echoing right now.
All right.
How about me?
Let me try to adjust.
I've got an echo from Allan.
All right. Try now.
Allan, now it's you.
Now it's me, motherfucker.
You know what? That actually didn't come through with an echo. Even though that could have then been sampled on the next Beyonce album.
I'm echoing shit.
Well, if there is any glimmer of good news from the Supreme Court this week, I guess it would be the gerrymandering case. That actually did uphold the Biden administration's criticism of redistricting. So in some senses, it seems, actually, I'm sorry, I think it was gerrymandering, and then also the ability for state courts to come in and nullify elections, federal elections.
I believe. That's the North Carolina case.
Right. So I guess, is that, Mike, a little bit of good news that at least, I mean, we upheld democracy?
It's hard to. I'm echoing. It's hard to imagine that they this way on that case, and then they strike affirmative action. They issue the Dobbs decision. I don't know. I guess I was listening to Neil Kyle the other case. And he said this is this opinion basically helps survive. So obviously it's a good day. Given all the other crap we come from the Supreme Court. So
I mean, we're at a sobering moment then as a republic if we're doing a victory lap for just being able to tread water. Then it seems. Yeah.
That's where we're at. I mean, look at this asshole. He wants to shoot people as they come across the border.
We do have a video.
Let's go with that.
Hampshire, Governor DeSantis was there yesterday. Obviously, he's another 2024 challenger. He was asked by a high school student about January 6th and how Republicans handle that. This is what he said to that student.
Do you believe that Trump violated the peaceful transfer of power, a key principle that of American democracy that we must uphold?
Are you in high school?
Yeah.
So I wasn't anywhere near Washington that day. I have nothing to do with what happened that day. Obviously, I didn't enjoy seeing, what happened. But we've got to go forward on this stuff. We cannot be looking backwards and be mired in the past.
He talked a little bit before that about how Biden is running for office and Biden running and why he should defeat him. But is that the way you think Republicans should be answering that question on January the 6th?
He wasn't anywhere near Washington. Did he have a TV? Was he alive that day? Did he see what was going on? I mean, that's one of the most ridiculous answers I've heard.
I'm echoing. So I'll let you handle that. Much as this place Chris Christie, at least the guy's standing, at least he's calling these out.
Sadly, this program has cancellation. Put it on, and it's not working.
Okay, are you looking to cut the program, Allan?
it was hard to.
Okay, no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry about the technical difficulties. It looks like we're going to have to go ahead and adjourn the program for this week. Fear not, we will go ahead and handle and we'll come back next week. So thank you for trying to tune in, and thank you, Allan, ML, and Mike.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, guys. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Now, can you hear us?
Huh?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems okay now.
Yeah.
It was Saeed, right?
Oh, maybe it might have been Saeed.
Because I can hear ML.
Yeah.
I can hear
ML.
you. I don't hear myself.
I hear a little bit.
Are we still live?
Right.
Are we still?
Yeah, we're still live. All right. Should we keep going? Let's see if we can play that Christie thing again. Let's see.
Hampshire, Governor DeSantis was there yesterday. Obviously, he's another 2024 challenger. He was asked by a high school student about January 6th and how Republicans handle that. This is what he said to that student.
Do you believe that Trump violated the peaceful transfer of power, a key principle that of American democracy that we must uphold?
Are you in high school?
Yeah.
So I wasn't anywhere near Washington that day. I have nothing to do with what happened that day. Obviously, I didn't enjoy seeing, what happened. But we've got to go forward on this stuff. We cannot be looking backwards and be mired in the past.
He talked a little bit before that about how Biden is running for office and Biden running and why he should defeat him. But is that the way you think Republicans should be answering that question on January the 6th?
He wasn't anywhere near Washington. Did he have a TV? Was he alive that day? Did he see what was going on? I mean, that's one of the most ridiculous answers I've heard.
So what do you guys make of Chris Christie?
Chris Christie is the voice of reason now? Is that where we are in this country?
It looks like it.
The guy who tried to punish a mayor by restricting traffic to his town on a bridge is now the voice of freedom. I guess if it's as good as we get, we better take it.
It's better than nothing, I guess, ML. That's what I'll say about it. I mean, at least, as much as I dislike Chris Christie, at least he's calling DeSantis out. He's calling Trump out. I mean, I guess there's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, it's
not very right, but at least it's something.
And I guess we should take some solace that Ron DeSantis didn't immediately say those were all patriots who I'll pardon the minute I get into office. They were trying to, this feels like the end of Titanic, where we're trying to find some shit that's floating, and maybe the only one who survives is the cute chick, and then she drops the diamond anyway. So what the hell, man? That movie sucked. I don't want to be in that movie. I don't want to be in that sub. I don't want to be anywhere near the Titanic. You know where the Irish were on the Titanic? They're the ones chained up in the basement. We don't like those kind of trips.
And so what is Chris Christie's role? Is he going to be the only one who's really going to be bashing Trump, and all the others kind of mealy-mouthed about it?
Well, it looks that way. Have you seen? I mean, nobody else has come out and said anything negative about Trump. I don't think. Maybe you guys are reporters. You know more than I do.
No, I think Asa Hutchinson from Arkansas.
That's right. He has been a little vocal.
It's somewhat staggering that the voice of reason is a governor of Arkansas, because that's usually not what we see. But these folks are going to have to start attacking Trump, because the way this works is you can figure out who the front runner is by who all the other people are attacking. Mm-hmm. And Trump was here last Sunday and spoke for an hour. He kind of does his greatest hits things, but he showed some polling data that I think are probably accurate, where he's running the table on the Republican side. He's leading everybody. He's leading everybody by double digits. And I think Meatball Ron, or Ron DeSanctimonious, whatever he's calling him these days, was in second. and he was behind by 25 percentage points or something. These folks are all going to have to gang pile and bring Trump down if any of them is going to have a chance of making it. If they just let him run the way he's been running, he's going to be the nominee. And
well, you got Jack Smith, ML. Jack Smith is going to bring him down. Okay, this guy don't play.
We have the tape from that's been CNN had aired, and we have it here.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the beginning.
When Millie's talking about.
Well, it's echoing. So what the fuck? But how damaging, Mike? How damaging do you see that?
I mean, look, every time Trump opens his mouth, okay, he shuts the door on a potential defense, and he can't find any lawyers to represent him, any good lawyers. So I mean, and I think Smith now, they're still calling people before the grand jury. Don't be surprised if they bring a case based on that conversation in New Jersey, because that's where that conversation took place. So it's possible that he's calling in the people that were in that room, particularly the person that was taping that conversation. And they want to know whether or not he actually showed them those documents, and what he was showing them.
Right.
I mean, it's a potential another case. Right. So I wouldn't mess around with this Jack Smith guy. When you saw Trump being arraigned and, he had threatened Smith, did you see Jack Smith just absolutely eyeballing the fuck out of him? I mean, he looked like he was shooting fucking, rockets through his eyeballs at Trump. I mean, I wouldn't fuck with this guy. This guy's a serious dude, man.
Yeah, I often say that I think Kwame Kilpatrick and Donald Trump have so many things in common. And with this case, the similarity I see is that Trump isn't going to take the stand, but he's going to be testifying against himself every damn day. The text messages, now they have recordings. I mean, boy, it's going to be tough. It kind of comes down to, were you lying then or were you lying now? And all establishes you're a liar.
So what do you see? Go ahead.
Bill Barr said he's toast. Toast.
And Bill Barr, by the way, major Trump apologist, tried to cut the legs out from under the Mueller report and did.
Right.
He's lining up to say that this guy's a dead man walking. I think Trump's only hope, and I think it's a realistic hope, is that this thing plays out so long and drags out for so many months that by the time it's coming near a resolution, he'll be president and he'll pull the plug on the prosecution, or he'll just pardon himself. I mean, that's really the scenario here. Is the way Trump beats this stuff is he's president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the questions is, if he gets convicted, what happens? Do we see him going to prison or home detention or getting probation?
Well, it's a nonviolent offense, but I imagine there's got to be sentencing guidelines, right, Mike? Because it's a federal case.
Yeah, there's definitely sentencing guidelines, and as a matter of fact, I can't remember who it was, but somebody just got 4 years for doing basically the same thing that Trump did. So, I mean, is he going to get jail time? Well, probably not from that judge down in Florida, but if Jack Smith widens his net and they get out, I think that it was a mistake to try to bring that case down in Florida, but that's just me. Obviously it probably would have given his defense lawyers a chance to try to file a bunch of motions and change venue and then drag the thing out longer. But Smith's gonna have a hard time down there in Fort Pierce, Florida, finding 12 jurors that are gonna convict this asshole.
Now, could he have tried it in New Jersey because some of those documents were at his golf club?
Well, I mean,
Bedminster?
That's what's coming, I think, Mel. That's why I think that he's still bringing people before the grand jury. I think that they're now looking to bring a case in New Jersey.
Can't they combine those cases, though? Why does it have to be a separate case in New
Because
Jersey.
it's a separate crime. That conversation that you played, that took place at Bedminster,
right,
in New Jersey, and he's not charged right now with dissemination of classified materials. But clearly, from at least what we can assume that now he's calling in those folks that were involved in that conversation, even though it's in the indictment. So, who knows where they're at. But I wouldn't mess around with this dude. I mean, he's a serious guy.
And also, if it's filed in New Jersey, there's a good chance of getting a better judge than they have right now.
Well, at least getting a judge that's qualified. I mean, this judge down there, and I can't think of her name right now, but she has. I mean, you talk about somebody who's not qualified to sit on the federal bench. I mean, they couldn't even find any articles that she wrote other than some newspaper article in some high school newspaper or some stupid shit. Okay, but that's Mitch McConnell's Federalist Society hard at work, putting these young judges on the bench for life that aren't qualified. So, she's a shining example. Maybe she'll change her tune because she got bitch slapped by the 11th Circuit the last
Right.
time around. And, I mean, and you're talking about a conservative court down there, the 11th Circuit. And, they smacked her around, so maybe she learned her lesson. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess the question would be, what if Trump gets convicted on 37 felony counts? Would that be outrageous if he didn't do time?
Well, from someone who sees their clients go away on a regular basis for crimes less than that, yeah.
And
a
lot of Republicans are always
give him an orange jumpsuit to match his face and his hair.
So if he's elected, and I think there's a chance he'll be elected, and he's convicted before he takes office, can he pardon himself from prison, or do we get his vice president as our president?
You're asking questions I don't think that we've ever had to deal with in our 200 some odd years. So,
yeah, no, this is one of these things where, as a reporter, and I'm sure as a lawyer, when you're looking for precedent, you're like, who the hell do I call to ask about this? Because this is some crazy outer space bullshit, and we have nothing to. I mean, there's stuff in the 1700s and 1800s. I think you got to go back to like 400 BC where we had some weird shit like this. I don't think they teach that in history.
Well, the first question is, can he pardon himself? And I don't think. I mean, based on what I've been able to read, treatises and law review articles and things of that nature, I don't think he has the authority to do that. But don't think that he won't try, right?
Well,
and then that'll be tied up in the courts.
I'm going to make a prediction that I feel is a fairly safe prediction. In fact, one I might bet my house on. When that question makes its way to the Supreme Court, they're going to say he can.
Right. I mean,
by a 6-3 majority.
Yeah, right on, brother.
I mean,
yeah.
This dude.
We also have.
But then the rule of law goes out the window,
Yeah.
and the rule of law. I mean, it's teetering anyways. Okay, in this country, and that's why it's refreshing to see someone like Jack Smith, indicting this ass clown. So, we just got to keep our fingers crossed and hope that the rule of law wins out and that people are concerned about preserving our democracy, our republic, because without the rule of law, then it's a game over.
Well, and we're getting pretty close to that now, because here's where we are. Trey Gowdy has multiple investigations into Benghazi, doesn't find squat.
Right.
Jim Jordan, who somehow didn't know that his wrestling coach was abusing his wrestlers,
right,
never wants to investigate that, but wants to investigate all kinds of crap over and over and over again. Nothing happens to him. Adam Schiff from California leads an investigation that finds all kinds of stuff. And he becomes only the 25th member of Congress censured in the 200-year history of our republic. We are really getting to a place now where where the mob rules, and it's an ugly mob.
Well, you know what? The answer is every vote. You know, there's more of us than there are of them, and we got to vote all the way down the ballot, and that's the only way that things are going to change. So
it's interesting. We sometimes they take these polls, believe the indictment is legitimate. And I have a friend who says, "Oh my God, so many Americans are skeptical of this indictment." And I say, "Who gives a shit? We don't have justice based on polls, whether they should proceed or not." And the Republicans constantly mention and say Trump is not being treated like anyone else, and they're absolutely right, because anyone else would have been in prison long ago.
No question. No question.
No, the way this game is being played now is Trump does something illegal or improper, says, "Watch, they're going to come get me." And then there's an investigation and there's a impartial determination that, yes, he did do something illegal and improper. And he gets charged. And then he says, "See, I told you they were coming to get me." That doesn't mean you're right. It just means you acknowledge you did something wrong, and then when somebody looked into it, you'd be charged with it, and lo and behold, you were charged with it. I mean, it's unbelievable how obviously and how craftily he has gamed people. But one reason, and I think the main reason why a lot of people get fooled, is because they want to be fooled. They get catfished because they want to think as a 75-year-old geezer that some hot chick from Las Vegas wants them, and so they want to send them their money. Anybody with any sense would say, I should be asking that lady down the hall at the nursing home who smiles at me in the cafeteria to go to the square dance. These people who support Trump, you don't really have to make a case. You just have to say, "You like Trump, right? I like Trump." If I told you some bullshit that would make you feel better about liking Trump, would you believe it? Like, I'm in. And they say, "Okay, well, here's some bullshit." And they're like, "You got it, brother." I mean, they want to be fooled.
Is Ron DeSantis?
It's a cult.
Does Ron DeSantis have a chance at all?
Does DeSantis have a chance?
Yeah.
Only if Trump is somehow removed from the contest.
Okay. And Mike, Rataj, you're a lawyer. Could Jack Smith in the prosecution say, "Okay, we'll let you not go to prison, but you have to promise not to run. You got to pull out of the race"? Could they do something?
Well, I mean, anything's possible, Alan. I mean, will they make him that offer? I would say probably not.
Yeah. The minute they make him that offer, he holds a press conference and said, "See, I told you. It's all about keeping me from being president." I don't think a prosecutor could responsibly make that offer without knowing that it was going to be parlayed into a political piñata.
Right.
This guy wants Trump's ass. Okay, trust me, he wants his ass. I mean, you can just look at him. I mean, I've gone up against a lot of good prosecutors in my career. This guy, I mean, he don't play, man. I mean, this dude, he's the real deal, And he's dotting his I's and crossing his T's. When he indicts, he's got the goods. And ML knows this, and so do you, Alan.
Yeah.
95% of the time, if the feds indict you, they got you.
Yeah.
It's rare that we win a case over there. That's why the plea rate is 97, 98%. So.
And I think even though when you only have the prosecutors in that grand jury room, it's not that hard to win an indictment in a lot of cases. I got to believe these guys know that they better make this a watertight case. It's not just a matter of rushing to get your bill of indictment.
No.
You better know that, in fact, if they have any brains at all, they have their second best prosecutor grilling the shit out of the prosecutors before they go forward with this, because they know it's coming. Although, having said that, I don't think Trump is going to have the best defense attorneys in the world, because even the ones he's had have quit because he has this one goofball who doesn't know anything about criminal law leading the defense team and alienating all the criminal defense attorneys and chase them away because he's like, you're leading our client to the slaughter.
Well, there's no question. I mean, that's going to be a major problem for him. He does not. There's no good lawyers in the country that are going to represent him for obvious reasons. One, he doesn't pay. Two, okay, he doesn't shut his mouth. He doesn't listen to his lawyer's advice. So no one's going to stick their neck out, and it's basically a professional suicide to represent Trump right now if you're any kind of lawyer. So, and although he is presumed to be innocent, and there's probably some good issues, some constitutional issues that could be raised by, very learned attorneys, and he does not have any of them. And so, he's fighting with both hands tied behind his back, and he's out running his mouth. And they're every time he goes on TV and he has an interview, they're recording those conversations, and they're just, they're literally, well, I won't use that phrase, but they're doing a happy dance in their war room.
Rataj, what's the motivation for some of these attorneys to represent him?
I'm sorry, Alan?
What's the motivation for some of these attorneys to represent Trump?
There is no motivation. What's the motivation? You got a client that doesn't listen. You got a client that doesn't shut his mouth. And then, good luck getting paid. I'm sure that, all the good DC lawyers that I'm familiar with, there are a few that I know of that through the American Board of Criminal Lawyers that I'm a fellow with. They've reached out to those guys, and they said, we don't want nothing to do with this fucking case.
Yeah. And look at his last legal team. They're getting sanctioned in almost every state that they represented him.
Right. Well, I wouldn't call them,
Giuliani, the Kraken, all these guys.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call them lawyers, Mike. I wouldn't call them lawyers. Rudy Giuliani, everybody knows he was always a politician, even way back when he was prosecuting the mob. He had nothing to do with that. Those were his prosecutors. He just held the press conferences. And the guy's a phony. And now he's unhinged, obviously. So,
well, what if it turns out that this is all part of Trump's brilliantly subtle scandal, brilliantly subtle plan to have his conviction thrown out for ineffective counsel?
Well, you know what? The only defense that he can really come up right now with is insanity. That's true. He's got no defense. What defense does he have? He doesn't have any. He's changed. He goes out and he runs his mouth like he always does, and he changes his tune. And the U.S. Attorney's Office got all those logged very nicely, and all the snippets from his. They're just building. He's got no defense, zero, other than insanity. That's the only other defense you could come up with. So. And he really, I believe he's insane anyway. So,
It's, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be the insanity of this race already. It's just it's insane. We've got a guy who's under indictments, who's going to get more indictments. And he's the guy, and his popularity just keeps growing.
Well, it's a cult, but that MAGA group is still a minority. There's still more of us than there are of them. So that's why it's important to vote.
Well, and his population is, his popularity is taking hits. There are Republicans who openly say on the record, we've got to get past this 2020 stuff. It's time to stop talking about that. And you do have people who are standing against him now. You do have DeSantis, whether you like him or not, who is putting it all on the line to try and beat Trump. Not because he disagrees with Trump, really, but because he's ambitious and he thinks he sees vulnerability. You have all these other Republicans who are coming after in what you could argue is an incumbent president, because he has that aura of incumbency. He has that sort of popularity among Republicans. So the issue isn't that Trump is as strong as ever. He has some weakness. The issue is that he's stronger than all of the guys coming after him. He's Gulliver. They're Lilliputians. And unless they all team up to bring him down, he's going to walk through and get that Republican nomination. And then we're going to have, say whatever you want about Trump, he is a very dynamic presence. He's just crackling with energy. And then you got Biden, who's got this, God bless him, idiot kid, and who looks like he's a zombie. And there are going to be people who look at them and say, well, I want the guy who kind of gets my heart racing. And frankly, after 4 years of Trump, give me all the boring presidents you got, because that was
don't you think that that's the mood of the country? They don't, independents, Democrat, and some Republicans, we don't want any more of this nonsense, this drama with this asshole. Okay, aren't we tired of it? Okay, can't he just scoff down a bunch? I've heard this other people more learned than I talk about that a lot of Republicans just wish that he would swallow a bunch more cheeseburgers and Cokes and just drop dead, and then they can move on from them. You know what I mean? So, but I just don't think that the country would vote him back in because of just the drama and the insanity of the whole fucking thing. So, even his own daughter and son-in-law have fucking distanced themselves from him. So,
Yeah, but they came home when he got in the White House. They'll be like moths to a flame. I think if inflation can get closer to 2 or 3% and gas is under $3 a gallon, then I think Biden's going to be tough to beat. But as long as those numbers are higher, and for some reason people don't seem to care that unemployment is lower than it's ever been.
Well, and inflation's going down too, ML. It's down to 4%. And it's lower than any country in Europe. You just pointed out the unemployment rate. The job growth, during Trump's administration, he had a minus, job growth numbers. Biden's got the highest job growth numbers, I think, in the last 50 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he better start talking about that, because
he's got to get out there and talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
The economy is doing great. This is the best. Our economy is doing well.
Yeah. The fear is that they won't let Biden on the trail, and I think that's a mistake, because I think if you end up with one of those moments in a debate where Trump's hair is on fire and Biden says, "Hey man, will you just shut up?" I think the country is going to get up and applaud. But if Democrats are afraid to put them in the room together, it's going to look like Feeble Joe and fire-breathing.
But you know what? Trump's losing some of his mojo too. What is he? 77 years old now. Okay. He's ready to drop dead any minute. Okay. He's very unhealthy, despite what that naval doctor said that, if he would just cut out the Cokes and cheeseburgers, he could live to be 200. What a fucking idiot. Okay. So.
Well, all right. Well, we'll get to, I'm still echoing here, but.
And I got to run to court here pretty soon.
Okay.
Alan,
we're going to do Schmuck of the Week here.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
That's my boy Rob, man. But he don't park our cars anymore, Alan. Where did he go?
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's not out there anymore in front of the Ford building. They moved.
Oh, really?
I haven't talked to him since.
Wow. See him on Facebook all the time, posting
that's
all
my buddy, man. So, ML, you
all
go
right,
first.
Schmuck of the Week. Mike Rataj. Okay. Go ahead, ML.
Okay, so I may be a week late on this, but I'm going with Samuel Alito, who, when he was asked a question about his travel by ProPublica, didn't answer, stoned them, and then provided his answer to the Wall Street Journal. And then the Wall Street Journal basically just licked it up like spilt milk in front of a hungry cat. But one of the problems we have as journalists is we have to give people an opportunity to respond to allegations and questions. And we often hear from people saying, well, you're only asking me at the last minute because you've already made up your mind, or because blah, 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 blah. And we say, no, we try and make sure we know what we're talking about, but then we want to give you a chance to tell us that we're wrong. and we need to give you enough time to do that, but we can't give you so much time that you do that other reporters can get onto the story or that you have a press conference or whatever. And Samuel Alito did exactly what every reporter worries about when they ask a source about a problem. They don't get an answer, they get the runaround. And here's Alito, instead of answering the question, squaring up to it like an adult, like someone who's worthy of being on the highest court of the land, and he takes the question and he goes and he runs to a friendly source and he says, here's how they're picking on me, blah, 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 blah. But in effect, he does answer the question, and he didn't phrase it this way, but this is the way I read it, which is, I'm a scroungy, greedy little shitbag, and that's your answer. So Samuel Alito, I hope you enjoy your time on that island with Clarence Thomas and that other rich guy. By the way, if he offers you a Coke, don't take it. You're my schmuck of the week.
Good one. Well, along the lines of the Supreme Court, I got to go with Clarence Thomas, who wakes up every morning and looks at himself and says, God damn it, I hate the fact that I'm black. Okay. I mean, he's just a disgusting human being. And for the positions that he takes, given his background, given the way that he was given, the opportunities that he was given, and then you juxtapose that against the opinions he writes, and really when you think about it, when they have oral argument for the Supreme Court, he very rarely speaks because he's an inarticulate piece of garbage. He can't put a fucking sentence together, and he's just a disgusting, I mean. He's kind of like, during the days of slavery, he was the dude that was in the house and going out under the master's orders and beating the slaves on behalf of the slave master. Right. So he is a disgusting piece of shit, and he's my schmuck of the week.
All right. I'm going to talk short because I'm still echoing, right? But John Roberts, for that mealy-mouthed majority opinion that he wrote on affirmative action. It was disgraceful. He basically was saying affirmative action is really okay, but it's not. And as someone on MSNBC said last night, he's trying to suck and blow at the same time. So
I love it. Well, yeah. we hit the Supreme Court pretty hard today, boys.
So, anyway, thanks a lot. Sorry for the whatever the hell's going on. I'm going to have to call StreamYard and use their platform to find out what the fuck happened. But anyways, thanks a lot. Great weekend, a great 4th, and thanks.
Enjoy your weekend, guys. Have a good time.
Drive on.
Mel, you look like you're